Okay, guys, listen. I just got off of the phone with a really, really, really good source about everything that's happening with Chi Osei and the DSA in New York City. For those that don't know, Chi Osei has kind of been a front runner to challenge Hakeem Jeffries, or as my friend Charlemagne likes to call him, Apak Shakur, a man who apparently notoriously has freaking 2 million in the bank from APAC, highly unpopular amongst the progressives, amongst the leftists, for obvious reasons. Also, somebody who somehow has the support of Zohran Mamdani for Speaker of the House. Been very confusing for a lot of people. It's been like the main talk that we've seen within our community online. And I will admit that I too have been really confused because Hakeem Jeffries is not a good person, okay? This man has refused to endorse Zohran, even given his historic win, his whirlwind rise. He's refused to endorse him. I don't know if like in his brain, his lack of endorsement is him refusing to like legitimize Zohran, as if like anyone needs Hakeem's legitimization at all. If anything, that might not even work in Zohran's favor, but I digress. Honestly, the fact that he participated in the vote denouncing socialism in the House hours before Zohran's incredibly viral visit to the White House that went super well with President Trump, the fact that he diverged from his own party to vote against Zohran, and yet, you know, Zohran hours later endorsing him and saying that this is the man that should be the speaker, it has been, rightfully so, very confusing for a lot of people. It's especially been confusing for Zohran supporters. So I personally also just wanted to get a better sense of what's going on, what's happening. So I just got off the phone with an incredible source, a very close contact of mine who has asked to remain anonymous and to only speak to me on background. So there's that. But when I tell you, like, this person is absolutely someone that's in the middle of all of this. I have worked very closely with this person who has worked in step with Zohran throughout his campaign, so he's very well aware of what's going on, and who also is involved with DSA as well, with the Democratic Party and with the DSA. So they know exactly what's happening, and I got some really important insight that I feel is necessary to share to kind of add some context to a lot of the discourse and the rumors that are happening online, because I genuinely want to see us win. And I do think that a lot of times our movements are very nihilistic. They anticipate loss. They expect that we're going to get backstabbed and screwed over. Understandably so. Obviously, we have been getting backstabbed and screwed over for the longest time. And that's also a huge reason why people are disillusioned by electoral politics and whether or not this is a means for us to gain any type of liberation, any type of power or influence within our political system. It's something that I asked Zohran directly about, if you remember, in our very first episode this season. It's a huge reason why, you know, so many people are really confused online. And even just last weekend, I was attending a friend's party out in Bushwick, Brooklyn, aka prime Zohran territory. Okay, every person that was there is, you know, from some intersectional identity that obviously has been like Team Zohran and benefits from being on Team Zohran. And even the people that I was talking to who unquestionably have supported him we're like standing off to the side and we're talking about it, and they're like, I don't understand. They were almost frustrated, if not angry, you know, and already starting to feel like a sense of confusion. And especially when we're already so on the lookout for the next sellout from our community. But one thing that I really, really want to push back against is our movement cannibalizing itself. We are so quick to scrutinize other members of the movement, people that comparably, compared to the rest of the system, are literally as true as you can get and are actual like soldiers that we need in the rooms and in the spaces that they're in. But we're so quick to find the first hint that they could be switching up on us to completely throw them under the bus. And I think in the bigger picture, in the long term, that is a failing strategy. And if our marginalized communities are going to have any chance at actually being adequately represented within the system, we have to learn how to play the system. It's common sense. With all that being said, there are 3 main points that my source has revealed to me about why supporting Chi and challenging Hakeem is not the move right now. I'm going to give just like a very quick, brief overview of them and just like leave it to you all to decide whether it has merit or not, whether, just digest it. Number 1 is that Hakeem was pulled within the district that he represents, and he is wildly popular among his own constituents. For those of us that operate on common sense, we're just like, why would anyone find this man appealing or popular in any way? But apparently this poll has revealed that Hakeem is up at least 50 points against any potential challenger to a seat. And that is very considerable, okay? Especially, and I say this as somebody who ran for Congress and who lost brutally and who needed to lose brutally to really understand what it takes to lay the groundwork and to shift the demographic in the favor of a challenger to a popular incumbent, okay? We can't take for granted the success that Zohran has experienced. It's not normal. It's why he has been celebrated for this historic win, because it truly is remarkable that he jumped from like 1% at the start of his race to sweeping the mayoral campaign against a legacy like Cuomo. So that's the first thing, right? Hakeem is hugely popular among his own constituents, especially when you're up like 50 points like that. We have to take into consideration that my source made it clear to me that 7 months out from the election is not a long enough runway to be able to get that groundwork that you need in order to make a significant dent in that. I'm the first person that will be like wildly optimistic, right? And I deeply believe in impossible feats being made possible through sheerly the power of the people. So do I think it's absolutely impossible that she would be able to win within 7 months against a popular incumbent like Hakeem Jeffries? I don't think it's impossible at all. I think with the right variables and the right kind of race, the right kind of campaign, that he could do some damage, But just in terms of like the next point that my source made, which is the need for resources, right? If you run a campaign, especially a campaign with the level of gravitas that it would take to challenge Hakeem Jeffries, not that it's impossible. Hakeem, you're a freaking loser and we're going to challenge your ass regardless. So be ready for that. Don't be surprised at all, okay? Whether it's this race or not, you're going to get challenged. But the resources necessary to be able to win a race like that are considerable. It's not something to be taken lightly. We're talking that he's going to probably need like at least $1 million in the bank to be able to put up any type of formidable fight against him. And, it takes time, it takes money, it takes volunteers, it takes a lot of foot soldiers to be able to make that kind of impact possible. Given the fact that our communities are already so depleted of those resources, like we all recall that Zohran, one of the main, beautiful concepts that he ran on is the fact that he was entirely funded by thousands of people making small donations rather than like Cuomo, who relied on his billionaire buddies, a few key people, to put in these astronomical donations to his campaign. So again, it's not impossible, but it does take considerable resources from our community. So the way that my source said it is, if you're going to go for the king, you better win. And I get that, because it's like, if you are going to pull all those levers to get those resources that you need, to get the donors, the money from them, the time that you're asking for people to put into your campaign, all of that stuff, it's going to be so much that you want to make sure that you win, or at least you have a really solid chance of doing so. But not to use the word impossible, if people are already questioning if it's even possible or not, and then on top of that, it requires all of these additional resources, I'm just viewing it from like these pragmatic politicians, the way that they view it, individuals like my source who's embedded within this entire scenario. Not to say that we necessarily have to agree with that strategy, but it helps make things make more sense. And again, my source really gave me like 25 different reasons about why this is happening. But I guess like the third important point that they pointed out is that Zohran is going to need all of the support that he gets to be able to pass his agenda. So basically, in layman's terms, to translate, politics is at play here, right? So, and that was kind of my assumption from jump when I found out that Zohran wasn't going to be endorsing Chi, and when I found out like this fricture is happening within DSA. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, okay, clearly there has to be some type of like long game happening here. Some type of politics is being played. And I get it. I will always give space to politics. Like these rooms weren't built for us. The system wasn't built for our liberation. It wasn't built to respond to us being like, no justice, no peace, And we need the no justice, no peace approach 1000%. That's not even a question. But if we are going to attempt to work within the system, then again, you gotta play the system, right? So I understand all of those things. I don't say that necessarily agree with them, but I'm hoping that this might provide some context. I'm always happy to tap into my contacts to get the information that we need to better understand what's going on beyond the headlines, beyond the trending sound bites and talking points on social media. And my source kept repeating to me, like, tell your people to break out of the matrix, So, F the matrix. And that is not an endorsement of Andrew Tate by any means. F Andrew Tate. Welcome back to Amani on Air. In case you missed it, your girl has gone mega viral on X for my graduation post, which apparently has pissed off a lot of people. And I wouldn't even say that it pissed off a lot of MAGA, because I'll be honest with you, a lot of MAGA has been congratulating me. So this is the post that I made. Trump froze my scholarship and I still graduated as the only Palestinian in international human rights law at Oxford University. It's cute. It's sweet. It's like tapped into this trend that happened on X last week, which is just look at the degree on that chick, kind of like a pushback against all of this hate that women with degrees were getting online, which, as we know, is more telling of the men hating on them than anyone else, because high caliber men all love and appreciate highly educated women. So thank you to all the men out there that showed their love and reminded me to not pay the haters any mind. But, that was simply not enough, because a lot of people kind of used this post as fodder, so it got, as of this podcast episode, 10 million views, almost 300K likes. And again, overwhelmingly positive. It got picked up by mainstream news. It was like on the front page of the internet, and people were talking about what should be a triumph, right? Which is this Palestinian woman that got this degree in a space where she's told she doesn't even exist, in spite of the politicization of the Trump admin and all of that stuff. First of all, I made another post following up to this of all of the disgusting Islamophobic hate that I got. I don't think I've ever been called the C word so many times within such a small period before in my entire life, which is like, okay, at least that set the bar. I'll try to outdo it next time and piss off people even more. So thanks for that. But also thousands of people calling me a terrorist, questioning why their tax money was going to support the education of a Hamas terrorist, because I'm Palestinian, obviously, and just all these disgusting things. And it's like, baby, you wish that your tax money was going to any type of beneficial educational initiative by any means. The funny thing is that people don't understand, you know, like everyone kind of assumed that, oh, this nonprofit must be funded by the federal government. That must mean that it's my taxes paying for it. That's how she got this scholarship, when that's not anywhere close to the situation, okay? The real story behind the scholarship freeze that I experienced in the final hour of me graduating from Oxford University, and that almost threatened my graduation. I say that because a lot of people are like, oh, you see, she graduated, she didn't need the scholarship anyway, da-da-da. And it's like, no, honey. Not having that scholarship like really almost jeopardized all of my hard work for the past 2 years. But what really happened is that this nonprofit created a scholarship fund in my honor, which was incredibly generous of them. And through this scholarship fund, a lot of community leaders, people that support my work, people that want to empower women's leadership through academia contributed to it in order to empower my education in getting this degree. I can't even begin to tell you the incredible support that I've received, for my scholarship, and every single person that supported me through this scholarship is somebody that I will carry in my heart literally for the rest of my life, because it's life-changing, and I will forever be as outspoken as possible about the impact that individuals can make on empowering young women's leadership like my own, because it's astronomical. But basically, then, as you know, at the beginning of this year and throughout the months since, Donald Trump has specifically been targeting nonprofit organizations that he feels are politically opposed to him. And a lot of the targeting of these organizations has been obviously entirely political. Most recently, the designation by Texas of the Council of American Islamic Relations as a terrorist organization. What? Okay, like the Council of American Islamic Relations is the premier civil rights group in the country for American Muslims. Like, we're talking American Muslims like me, born and raised here. Some American Muslims that have been here for generations, longer than some white Americans, whose rights are represented by this organization. And this organization, CARE, was under attack simply because of the fact that they're defending the rights of Muslims. So, designated as a terrorist organization, egregious. I love that CARE is defying that. We'll keep an eye on top of that story and update you guys as it progresses. But, you know, we're over here targeting nonprofit civil rights groups for American citizens. Meanwhile, lobbyist groups like AIPAC, one of the most powerful lobbyists that we have in this country, who are actively working for foreign interests, for the interests of a foreign government, who are literally buying out our politicians and placing people in position and upseating people that are anyway critical of Israel's war crimes, right? Meanwhile, AIPAC has gone unscathed by this current administration, so far, at least. In terms of popular support, they are going down the tube very rapidly, thanks to my friends at AIPAC Tracker and just normal people that are actually doing the research for themselves and realizing like what's going on here. This organization that awarded me this scholarship then had their bank accounts frozen because they participated in a campaign that was critical of Israel, okay? They bought out an ad in Times Square that was urging FIFA, UEFA, just sports institutions to not allow the apartheid regime of Israel to compete in their games, to not allow sports to normalize genocide. The campaign went crazy viral. And because of that campaign, their bank accounts got frozen. I think they're cool now. I think everything's good. But as a result of their bank accounts being frozen because that they use their funds, rightfully so, to advocate for human rights, which is literally their job, it affected me. It affected my scholarship. They couldn't pay out my scholarship anymore. They couldn't provide for me in the final hour. And I almost literally got deregistered from the Oxford roster because I wasn't able to pay my dues. I don't care for the hate. Again, being on the internet, on social media, like, you're talking to a social media pioneer, baby, okay? Like, this does not affect me anymore, and nor should it affect any other Muslim woman or girl, or frankly, anyone that comes from a marginalized background that's hated online. We know the nature of the beast at this point, you know? And I just thought it was really sweet that a lot of people were saying, you know, don't let the haters, you know, detract from this, whatever. I just really despise how my post was then politicized to add to this hysteria that people's tax money is going towards funding foreigners. Apparently this born and raised Jersey girl is a foreigner because of the fact that I'm Muslim and I'm Middle Eastern, and that it's going towards our students going to like foreign universities and whatnot, when it's like that literally has been a guiding strategy of America. You know, that's soft power. You know, that's exactly the point of why we have things like Fulbright and whatever. But, you know, whatever. Most of the people that were hating, I doubt that they have any type of academic aspirations to that extent. So here, let me react to some of the top quote retweets. This guy, Eric Richards, said, "I have paid taxes for things you couldn't believe." Honey, no, you have paid taxes for the most brutal genocide that we have witnessed in modern memory. That's what your taxes have gone to paid for. Have paid for war crimes, atrocities, massacres. Your taxes are paying for the social services and the reparations of our foreign allies instead of to American citizens themselves. That's what your taxes are paying for. Your taxes had nothing to do with my scholarship, honey. Not at all. This one's a personal favorite of mine. This guy did Oxford then, Oxford now. Like, as if this is an insult. When baby, like, this is beautiful. You're telling me that Oxford used to look like literally, genuinely just all white males. And this is true. Oxford used to be like men only. And it's very recently, like within the past century, that women were even allowed to study there, but they weren't even allowed to study for like degrees, okay? Like they're just like allowed in, I guess. The fact that we went from that to this is glorious. It's just a testament to the fact that so much of the global South has been pillaged and robbed to uphold these Western institutions, to uphold Western supremacy. And in that way, our countries have been deprived of resources, of being able to build up the institutions that we deserve. So yeah, for us to wind up in the heart of empire, studying the tools of the master, yeah, that's a tremendous development, and rightfully so. That education, that knowledge, we are absolutely entitled to it. This is from an academic named Wanjiro, or she calls herself an academic. She said, "An African student in this program from Uganda was arrested and jailed after she was exposed as a slave owner. She had a slave that she kept in her home in Oxford." So yes, this story did actually happen. She was absolutely not in the same program as me. Our program is the Masters of Science, International Human Rights Law. This person was in a completely different program. I don't even know like what program they were in, but it wasn't ours, and it surely wasn't anywhere near like the same year. But the fact that she like used this story to try to discredit a human rights degree, coming especially from an African woman that is working as an educator within a Western academic institution, you know, like it's just so hypocritical, because her entire career has been based on pushing back against like this DEI, like wokeness, whatever, aka literally punching down against the very marginalized communities that she comes from. It's such a sick disease that some members of minorities have, where they're just like pandering for acceptance and to like fit in, you know, with their colonizers. She over here is trying to portray herself as if she gives a damn about the fact that this slave was being like held up by this judge, which is disgusting that that happened. But her intent behind this tweet was just so malicious, and it's just really entertaining to me that that like even happened. Yep, your girl is a Palestinian. She's also an American, whether you like it or not, and she has an elite degree now to fight back. So stay mad. But thank you to everyone that was congratulating me. It really means a lot. I felt like I was like celebrating my graduation with the internet, honestly, over the past week. I just have to say, like, something really sinister is happening within politics right now. One of the first conversations that I had with one of my professors in this Oxford program, right? He's as British as they come. And he has been observing American politics from this outside, spectator perspective, especially coming from the international human rights law community, especially being very much of a political analyst himself. And he said to me, literally, like my first week in this program, he said, Amani, what you all have in the United States is not a democracy. It's capitalism. It just solely operates as a capitalistic system, not as a democratic one anymore. And the sooner that Americans wake up to this, the better off you all will be. And he's not wrong. Actually, that is probably the most accurate and succinct conclusion of where we are right now. As an American people, we just don't understand the gravity of how far things have gone in terms of the desecration of our democratic principles. Let's look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example. The fact that MTG has had to resign from Congress when she was possibly one of the only conservatives that was actually going up against the grain and saying something different. She most notably has been critical of Israel, not for any specific reason to Israel, but she's just very America first. She said it in her own words. She's like, I want to put Americans first and foremost. Obviously, her definition of Americans are like white people. So there's that. It's not like MTG is on our team or like in our corner in any way. But she was the only one really, truly fighting to put America first within our current political system, which has been favoring and siphoning off so much of our American resources towards foreign allies and towards foreign wars. And the fact that she herself has crumbled, it's kind of like there's this force happening within the current administration that is trying to sand off any of the rough edges, any type of differences of opinion that may exist within our political spectrum to make it all unanimously one way. And that is really disgusting. We already have such a huge problem within our political system for being a two-party system. The fact that we only can choose between Republicans and Democrats pragmatically, to like actually like win elections, we're being forced to choose between these two choices. And that those two choices have become increasingly synonymous with each other thanks to the fact that our elected representatives care more about lining their pockets with lobbyist money than to actually represent the constituents that voted them into those seats in the first place. They all sound the same. And we should all be concerned about this. Whether or not you care about MTG, whether or not you like her, I surely don't. This is a very important trend to observe and call out within politics right now. Because especially within the party that was very anti-wokeness, anti-cancel culture, pro-free speech, and for them to be the ones like, if you don't fall in line, we're going to kick you out. For them to allow MTG to fall like this, that's pretty sad. That's kind of treasonous. I won't lie to you. So, I hope that there's going to be a change between now and between her resignation date in January. Not because I care for her at all. And not that I think that she, would benefit our communities by any means, but because of the fact that I truly deeply believe in an educated democracy, and her voice represents a very solid amount of Americans that echo and agree with her, and that whether or not we agree with them, they deserve to be represented within the system. So now for our favorite part of the show, Gaslight of the Week. If you've been online at all, you may have guessed this one, Sarah Hurwitz. Now, Sarah Hurwitz apparently is the former speechwriter of former First Lady Michelle Obama, and she has been just going absolutely viral constantly over the past week and a half for her just complete transparency of her opinions and her viewpoints. People are saying that the hate that she's getting online is to silence her, but really, we want her to keep talking. She initially went viral for this talk that she gave at a conference in which she's openly stating that Holocaust education is not good because it has turned people against Israel. The thing is, for the past 2 years, we've been screaming at the top of our throats, right? That it's never again for anyone, okay? And, you know, Israeli propaganda, the Israeli government has tried to convince us that it's only never again for them. The Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., the biggest Holocaust museum in the country, came out and said never again for anyone and got hit by so much backlash that they had to retract their statement and essentially say, no, but we don't mean about what we're doing overseas. We don't mean foreign issues. We're just talking about here, you know? And then Sarah Hurwitz comes out and she clarifies that for all of us. This is what she had to say.
And, you know, I think, unfortunately, the very smart, bet that we made on Holocaust education to serve as anti-Semitism education, in this new media environment, I think that is beginning to break down a little bit. Because, you know, Holocaust education is absolutely essential. But I think it may be confusing some of our young people about anti-Semitism because they learn about big, strong Nazis hurting weak, emaciated Jews. And they think, oh, anti-Semitism is like anti-Black racism, right? Powerful white people against powerless Black people. So when on TikTok all day long they see powerful Israelis hurting weak, skinny Palestinians, it's not surprising that they think, oh, I know, the lesson of the Holocaust is you fight Israel. You fight the big, powerful people hurting the weak people.
And just when you wanted her to get away with like the plausible deniability of like, maybe this was taken out of context, maybe it was misconstrued in some way or another, who knows? Sarah Hurwitz hits us with another one, okay? Then a second clip went viral in which she's saying that Jewish schools should ban phones because it's allowing young Jewish people to see what the Israeli government is committing, it's perpetuating against another oppressed people.
When I'm trying to make arguments in favor, for Israel, I realize I'm talking through a wall of dead children.
She said that she has to talk past a wall of dead children. This is giving me like Van Jones' Dead Gaza Baby vibes.
If you are a young person, you open up your phone and all you see is dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby.
Right. But it's just so funny to me because this kind of illustrates exactly what the issue is here, right? When we say that genocide requires an indoctrination, a process of dehumanization you have to go through on like a soul level to be able to commit genocide and to find genocide acceptable against a people that are other than your own. And Sarah Hurwitz demonstrates that to all of us, like right in front of our eyes, right to our ears, right? It's like each time she's so close, like following the logic, and she gets so close, but in like the final conclusion, the final analysis, she like switches, right? That obviously this must mean that children being exposed to information is what's wrong here, right? Obviously this means that the way that we taught about the Holocaust of, you know, being the oppressor against the oppressed, obviously this is wrong because then people are putting two and two together and putting Israel in the placeholder of the oppressor in the situation against skinny Palestinians. It's just mind-boggling, but none of this was really surprising to me, you know, because there is this massive campaign of brainwashing that Israeli society has to undergo to condition them to view Palestinians as subhuman in order for them all to be just so overwhelmingly in support of genocide and unquestionably serve an apartheid army in a military force committing these types of atrocities. I mean, even when you listen to the way that Israeli soldiers talk about this, talk about the atrocities that they've committed just so nonchalantly, the way that, you know, just a few weeks ago, there was somebody else that went viral, an Israeli figure, explaining that obviously we have to kill Palestinian children because if we don't, they're going to grow up and kill us. And she was saying it so matter-of-factly that it's like she was surprised that this didn't make sense to the rest of the world. Like Israelis are shocked when the rest of the world doesn't agree with them that this is okay. You know, it's like that's how far gone they are. And I think that's what is so delicious about this trending Sarah Hurwitz story is it's just so blatant and in your face. And she's kind of telling on herself so blatantly. I can't think of a better definition of gaslighting here. Can you? All right, guys, that's all we have for this week. See you in the next episode of Amani on Air.